Hi, everyone. I wanted to take this time to say thank you for checking in to Keeping Up with the Joneses Health and Wellness community, and wanted to share a story with you that tried to share the other day and realized that YouTube has a limit on how much time you can spend talking. Anything over 15 minutes, they get really, really annoyed, and it takes forever and a day to upload. So we're going to try and do this a little quicker today and hopefully get the same message across. Football season is starting up, and my son Sean has just finished the second week of tackle football practice, and a lot of kids are starting up practice. High school kids are getting ready to start. I saw that on the local news the other day that they had started practice and everything like that, and so took me back to a time when I was attending high school football, and a story that I'd like to share with you about motivation and overcoming difficulties and goal setting. A little bit about myself. I was born here in the Coachella Valley in 1967. Gosh, it seems like a long time ago. And anyways, my parents tried to make it work, and eventually decided that they needed to split up. And so in 1973, we moved back. My mom and I moved back to Madison, Wisconsin, and I spent most of my childhood till 1981 back there in Madison. At that point, my mother and father decided that they'd like to get back together and try again. So we moved from Madison back here to Indio, California at the time, and it was a tough time for me because most of my family friends that I knew were all back there in Madison. So when I moved out here in the summer of 1981, I was in between my 7th and 8th grade. I had no friends that I personally knew out here at the time, and so therefore it made it a difficult transition. And so when I went to 8th grade there, I made some friends, but not a whole lot of friends. And the people that I made friends with were mostly 7th graders, because when I transferred over, my placement was into mostly 7th grade classes. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, most of my friends that I met were 7th graders, some 8th graders, but most of them were 7th graders. So come time for high school, and started off high school, and I always wanted to play football. I enjoyed playing football with my friends back in Madison, and the friends that I had made there at Thomas Jefferson Middle School, I did a lot of football playing, and so I enjoyed it a lot. And so time came to try out for the high school freshman football team, and went ahead and tried out and made it. Not very well, when the starting lineups and the second team and the third team were announced for the offense and for the defense. I wasn't chosen on any of those. I was on the team, and basically it was a tackling dummy. I wasn't able to make either team or anything like that. And one of the moments I remember being in there was that I never actually was on the travel team. So when we went out of town, I didn't go with our team. I had to hear from my teammates how the game went and everything like that, because I didn't make it. I didn't get a travel jersey. And so I remember not feeling all that great about it, and here I was, a year or so into living here in the desert, but not having a whole lot of friends. And high school is tough for anybody. Just imagine that compounded without knowing a whole lot of people. And so didn't get a chance to enjoy my football season very much. I didn't really try all that hard. I just kind of showed up every day and hoped that things would change, but didn't do a whole lot of effort into changing it. One of the things that I remember, and I still remember to this day, is the CV High pep rally. I went to Indio, and CV was our big arch rival at the time, and so we were having a pep rally at the school for our big football game against CV, and showed up at the football pep rally, and it was 6 periods, so all the high school was there. And one of the neat things I thought at the time, and still do at this time, was that the starters were named off, and the cheerleaders called out the starters, and everybody cheered, and the guy that got his name said and got run out onto the high school basketball court and recognized. And I thought that was really, really neat. And I thought, wow, wouldn't that be neat to have that happen for me when I was a senior, there in Indio High. And so, you got to remember that I was basically a tackling dummy on the high school football, the freshman team. I did not make the travel team. When it came time to check in the jerseys after the season, the athletic trainer asked where was my travel jersey, and I'm like, well, I never got one, And after he stopped laughing, and he did laugh, he said, okay, that's all right, And so that was my high school freshman football experience. And I can still remember to this day, and was nothing mean-spirited about it. That was just the truth at the time. So after football season, my dad was diagnosed with cancer in early part of 1982, and 1983, and he passed away in June of 1983 from complications arising from that cancer. So that was a really interesting is a bad word, tough time. There, we'll just say how it was. It was a very tough time for my mother and I, and a lot of soul searching, a lot of time to just kind of reflect. And at the time, my mother had a very difficult time with the whole loss of my father, and so I went and back to Wisconsin for the summer, and so therefore I didn't really participate in any of the drills for summer for the upcoming football season, but I wasn't planning on attending, just like I did the year before. And I remember the head coach, who had moved up from the freshman to the JV, actually remembering my name, and I thought how great that was, that he actually knew who I was and stuff. It wasn't that I had a lack of skills. I was faster than quite a few kids. I wasn't the fastest kid, but I was one of the faster kids, and I wasn't one of the smaller kids. I'm now 6'1", but at the time I bet I was probably 5'9", 5'10" at the time, and so it wasn't like I was this, small little kid that couldn't do anything. But because I didn't think I could, because nobody at that time had expressed, confidence in me, so therefore how could I have confidence in myself? I just kind of went through the motions. And I don't remember exactly what the day was, but I remember some kid from the football team kind of came along and gave me a push, and somewhere along the line I just said that was enough. I wasn't going to take it anymore. And so I pushed back, and the coach saw that it did that, and he goes, well, why don't you do that in the games, or why don't you do that in the practice? And I'm like, well, nobody ever asked me to. And so the coach had to explain to me that he did ask me. I just wasn't apparently listening or whatever, but it's clicked, and so therefore I started trying a little harder and pushing a little effort. That year I got on the football field when the play was going and stuff, and it wasn't just mop-up duty, was on the special teams, still wasn't a starter or anything like that, and tried a lot better. And so the year between my sophomore year and my junior year, I had spent some time at home and did some workouts and everything like that, but still didn't put a whole lot of effort into my football career, I guess you could say. And so when time came for practice to start for the summer, all the teams, the freshmen, the JV, and the varsity were all put together, and they all worked out. And then it came time for them to separate the teams. And so when the varsity team was called off, my name was said on the varsity team, and I thought, well, great, this is this great thing that's happened. I'm on the varsity team just like all of my friends that I had now made in high school. And so that was the morning practice, and so the evening practice came, and I still was not putting 100% effort into things, and so therefore when time came, I was actually running out late. All my friends were still on the field stretching out, and the head coach apparently had a change of thought at that time and told me, that I wasn't on the varsity team, I was on the JV team. And so here all my friends and everything like that, they weren't laughing, but I'm sure they kind of smirked a little bit. And here I was going down to play with the sophomores on the JV team, and just kind of making, I don't know how to explain it, just it felt really lousy, and football players are taught not to cry, but inside I was really busting up because this was my dream of being on the varsity team and being the starter, and maybe I wasn't going to be the starter, but I was going to be on the varsity team, and now I wasn't even on the varsity team, so how can I be the starter on the varsity team without being on the team? And so it was a really big eye-opener. Because I had not put in the effort and concentrated and showed up to practice on time and did the little things, the head varsity coach thought it would be a good idea for me to be down on the JV team. And so that year, when I played JV, I ended up breaking my collarbone and pretty much missing the season. So it was just a real disappointing time. And here my dream was, got 1 year left before I would graduate high school, and I was still not any closer to that dream of being at the pep rally and having my name said by the cheerleaders and recognized by the school. So that year, between my junior and my senior year, I decided that to make it a goal that I was going to try my hardest and not let anything get in my way. If it was going to be, it was going to be up to me. And so I did show up to every practice. I was the first person there. I was in the weight room a lot. I was the first person there and often the last person to leave. And so therefore I put 100% effort into becoming the football player that I wanted to be. Because of this, came time for the CV high school football pep rally at the end of the year, our arch rival, and I was called out on as a starter, and the cheerleaders said my name, and the students cheered and everything like that. So why am I sharing this story with you? Is because I want you to know that you need to put effort into things. Just showing up isn't going to all of a sudden just make it happen. You have to put in effort, you have to dedicate your time, you have to make choices as to what you're going to do. And I just wanted to share that with you, that it doesn't happen overnight. Anything worth achieving never is easy. It's always hard. You're going to have setbacks. The only time you truly fail at something is when you fail to get back up after being knocked down. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Looks like I got it underneath the time limit and everything. Hopefully I didn't go and all those other things and try to judge myself, but that's just me being me. And I want to say thank you for watching this video.